All right, hello everybody. My name is Paul Gilbert, and welcome to the Ibanez Jam Pack DVD. Today is a good day because you have a beautiful brand new Ibanez acoustic guitar to play with, and so do I. So today I'm going to try to show you how to play some chords, how to get started playing your Ibanez acoustic guitar. So keep watching, get ready, get your fingers ready, get your ears ready, and we'll have a good time. All right, well, in your Ibanez Jam Pack, you have a lot of good things to go with your acoustic guitar. Make sure you've got some picks ready to go. If you want to stand up, you've got a guitar strap. One part of it goes around the button here. Another part actually ties right above the nut, this little area here. And so the strap will go here, cowboy style, which always looks good. You've also got some strings, but you probably won't need those for a while because you've got some good ones on there. And we've got a booklet, all kinds of stuff. So let's go to the next part, which is tuning. So get out your tuner and we'll get ready to tune up so we can play. Okay, well, before we get started playing, it's very important that we get in tune. So we're going to be using these are the tuning keys. There's 3 on a side, and also it's helpful to use the tuner that came in your pack. The tuner actually has a small microphone in it, so you don't have to plug it into anything. It'll just turn it on, and it'll automatically pick up the sound of the guitar. Although you probably want to get it as close as possible. So if you have a little desk or something, you can stick it nearby. It'll pick it up better. Plus, you can see it. So also, it's always good to use your ears. So I'm going to play the notes, and you can try to match the note to me, and also keep an eye on your tuner. So let me go through the strings one by one. The string that's closest to the floor is the first string. It sounds like that. It's also the note E. So the way the tuning key works is, of course, it'll go up and down when you tune it. And there's the E note. So keep turning it back and forth until you get it really close. All right, the next one is the second string, and it is also the B note. Sounds like that. Tune that key until it sounds close. Let's go to the next one. This is the third string, or the G note. Tune it around until it gets close. Now, if it's way off, or you can't really, you can't tell if it's close, you can always take it to the music store, and somebody there can help you out. But I bet if you listen close, you can get it. Here's the fourth string, which is the D. Of course, I'm playing this all with the pick. You can use your fingers too, if that's comfortable. I'll show you how to use the pick later. Either way will work. Next one is the fifth string, which is an A note. Turn that key, match it up. And the very last one is the sixth string. It's the thickest one, and it's the note E. A lot of times you call this the low E because that's the high E. Now, of course, when I say high and low, I mean in pitch, not in height compared to the ground. So that's the lowest note, the low E. All right, you're in tune. All right, it's going to be a lot easier for me to explain how to play the guitar if you know what some of the parts are called. So let me just go through it real quick. Of course, we just used the tuning keys to get in tune. Also up here we have the nut, which is this sort of cream-colored thing that the strings come off of. On the neck, this is the neck, and the neck has small metal bars on it that are the lines you see. Those are called frets. That's probably the most important thing we'll talk about today is the frets, because that's where your fingers go. Also in the neck we have those dots, which are called position markers, or a lot of times I just call them dots, but sometimes they're different shapes, so position markers is a good name. Down here we have the body. That's the big part that sits on your leg, and the strings attached here to this piece of wood here, which is called the bridge. The things that hold the strings in are the string pegs. When you change strings, those actually come out. And this is the pick guard, because if you really start jamming and hitting hard, it protects the wood from your dangerous pick. Besides that, I guess we have a strap button there that your strap will attach to if you want to stand up. And I think that's about it, So we're ready. Let's get started playing. So we are now ready to start playing the acoustic guitar. I'm going to show you, first of all, how to hold the pick. Of course, many acoustic guitar players also use their fingers, but I think it's good to start with a pick. It's nice and simple, and it's nice and loud. What I'm going to do is show you how to hold it. First, you use your thumb and your first finger, and you just put them together like that with the pick in between. The point of the pick actually sort of comes out about halfway between your thumb and your first finger. But that's how you hold it. And let's test it out by just hitting all the open strings, making a big noise. Get ready, here it comes. Yeah. There's no better way to get used to the guitar than just hitting it, making some noise, spilling the notes all over the floor, and we'll clean it up later. So that is the pick. I also want to make sure that you're comfortable holding the guitar. So, if you're sitting down like I am, which is a good way to practice, make sure you have a chair that doesn't have any arms on it. You need to have room for your arms to move around when you're playing. And if you're bumping into things, it can be tough. So it's nice to have a chair with no arms. You also have a choice of which leg to put the guitar on. I tend to put it on my right leg because it's just a nice position for playing. And my right arm is kind of resting on the top of the guitar here, so my wrist can do all the work for picking. I don't have to move my whole arm. It's too hard to control that. So just rest it on the top, and of course your left hand goes underneath, and we're just about ready to play. All right, so now we're ready to play something. The first thing I want to show you is how to play an open string. Open just means that your left hand isn't doing anything. You've got the string where the actual nut makes the note. So we're going to pick the first string by itself. So give that a try. All right, you got it. The next thing is we're going to actually fret a note with our left hand. So use your first finger on your left hand, and let's put it on the 3rd fret. You can count up if you want. 1, 2, 3. There's also a position marker there, a dot. So go to that fret and press down with your first finger and get ready to pick it. Now you don't want to be right on top of that middle fret. You want to be kind of in between. That way you're letting the fret do the work. The next thing, let's move up 2 frets from there to the 5th fret. And now to make it musical, let's make a rhythm out of it. I want to play each note 4 times. So that's all with your first finger. You're moving it back and forth. That's what your left hand is doing. Let's try picking it one more time. Play along with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3rd fret. Up to the 5th fret. Open. All right, you're playing guitar. So the next thing I want to show you is almost exactly the same thing. We're going to use the same frets, we're going to use the same finger, we're just going to use 2 strings this time. It's going to be the first string and the second string together. So we're going to play both of those open. And then with your first finger, let's go up to that 3rd fret again, but this time we're going to press across both strings. That's actually called a bar when you play more than one string with one finger. Then we'll move up to the 5th fret and bar it again. And open. So the good thing about this is since you're playing 2 strings, it's starting to make the guitar sound bigger and louder and more powerful. So now that you have that down, I want to show you a couple more things that you can do with just your first finger. Let's again stay on those first 2 strings. And this time I'm going to play on the 2nd fret and the 4th fret on the 1st string. So it would be... And I'm going to leave the 2nd string open the whole time. So we're actually picking the first 2 strings, but only fretting the 1st string. Let me play it so it makes it easier to understand. And I'm going to do the same rhythm we did before, with 4 picks on each note. Cool. Open strings sound really good like that. That's a great thing about the acoustic guitar, is that big ringing sound. The next thing I want to do is very similar to that, where we're going to use those first 2 strings, but this time we're going to fret the B string, which is the 2nd string, and I'm going to play the 2nd fret and the 3rd fret, and we've got the same rhythm, so it's... Now for this you need a little more technique because you have to get your finger in there, but you can't touch the 1st string because if you do, it'll mute it out. So you have to make sure your 1st finger is bent over so both of those strings are clear. Again, you don't want to do this. You want to make sure it's bent so it's nice and clear. I'll play it one more time. So this time, I still want to use the 1st finger, but we're going to play the first 3 strings. So we're adding one more, which is the 3rd string, also called the G string. I want to play it on the 1st fret, so press down there, and then you can play all 3 of those strings. There they are separately, but let's play them together. And now move up 1 fret to the 2nd fret, and now to the 4th fret. And our rhythm will be the same, where we play 4 times on each note. And you can hear how nice those open strings sound together with the fretted note. Big, ringy, acoustic, good sound. So now we've played things on the 1st string, the 2nd string, and the 3rd string. And as we move down to those thicker strings, it's going to make it a lot easier if you have the right hand position. What I mean by that is, if your hand is like way up above the neck, it's very difficult for your fingers to reach around and play those lower and thicker strings. So you want to get your hand more underneath the neck, and that's going to make it a lot easier for your fingers to reach up and get those thicker strings, up here. So another thing is also where your thumb is. It's nice to have the thumb on the back of the neck, like that. It gives you a lot of control and helps you put pressure on the strings with your other fingers. You can sort of press them together. And that'll help you a lot. So let's move on with good hand position. Okay, we're ready for the good stuff now. I want to show you some chords. These are things that I really wish someone had shown me when I started playing, because they're one of the best sounding things for acoustic guitar, or really any guitar. One of the big differences between electric guitar and acoustic is that electric, you can make any note really loud by just turning up the amp. But with acoustic, the more strings you play, the louder and the more full it's going to be. So I'm going to show you some big open chords where you've got a lot of open strings, a lot of volume, a lot of power, and these are really what makes the instrument come alive. So to learn these, I want to show you how to read a very simple chord symbol. The symbol we're going to start with is the symbol for E minor. So to read a chord chart, it's pretty easy because it's basically just a picture of a section of the guitar neck. If you look at this chart here, the lines that are going up and down represent the 6 strings. The lines that are going across represent the frets. And if you go over to the far left, that's going to be your low E string, the thickest string. And if you look all the way over to the right, that's going to be your high E string, or your first string. The dots that you see on this E minor chord are where your fingers go. And you can see along the bottom, the numbers tell you which fingers to use. In this case, it's the 2nd finger and the 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th and 4th strings. That's a lot of numbers, but that's why the chord chart's so nice, because you can just see a picture of it, and in a way you can sort of forget about the numbers and just play what you see. Now obviously I'm playing a lot more than those 2 notes. You can see along the bottom there's all those zeros, and that means the strings are open. So that's why you get such a big, nice sound with all those notes together. Let's play it all in one big chord. That sounds good. So I want to show you a couple more of the best sounding chords with the open strings. This first one is really similar to what we just did, the E minor. All we're going to do is add your first finger. And you've already had a lot of first finger practice, so hopefully this will come pretty easily. You just keep the notes you already had. And we're going to put the first finger on the 3rd string, 1st fret. It's a G sharp note. How that chord sounds a little happier because it's a major chord. And again, the chord chart will really help you memorize the shape of this chord so you can go right to it. The second chord I want to show you is an A major chord. This one's really easy to learn because the shape of it is just a straight line. We're going to bar with our first finger, which means we hold down more than one note at the same time. The notes are on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. Again, that's a lot of numbers, so just check out your chord chart or look at my finger and you can see how easy it is. I'm also playing the open 5th string. So here it is all together. Good sound for an A major chord. Another one of my favorite chords is the D major. The shape of this one is almost like a triangle, so it's also easy to remember. It uses 3 of your fingers, and I'm going to put it together this way. We're going to start off with our 2nd finger on the high E string, which is the 1st string, on the 2nd fret. Next we're going to use our 3rd finger on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And to finish that triangle shape, we're going to use our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Again, don't be confused by all the numbers, just look at your chord diagram or your chord chart and you can see that triangle shape, and that's what makes it easy to memorize and to play. Hear the notes separately and all together. Now again, hand position is important on this. I don't have my hand directly below as much as I did before. I have it angled a little bit to the side, and that helps me get that triangle shape. So there's your D major chord. Now next, let's go to the right hand and learn how to strum these chords. It's really going to make them sound big and full and like you're really playing the guitar. So let's try that first E chord that we already learned, the E major. And to strum, you basically play all the strings with one big downstroke. Down, of course, means down towards the ground. And when you strum, you kind of get a rhythm going. So I'm going to play a slow rhythm doing all downstrokes. Sounds nice and full. Now the other trick is to do upstrokes in combination with that. So let's just try doing straight back and forth, down, up, real slow. Now to show you that, I'm doing kind of an exaggerated motion, more than I need to. When you end up practicing this, it'll be a smaller, more natural motion with your wrist. But don't worry, just practice it, get used to it, get comfortable. The next thing I want to show you is a strumming pattern with mostly downstrokes, but one upstroke at the end. It's going to sound like this. Let's try that with the different chords we've learned so far. Let's try it with the A chord, which is the straight line shape. And the D chord, which is like that triangle. Once you get comfortable with strumming, it really makes these chords come alive, you know? All right, I love these open chords, so I want to show you a couple more. This one is the C major chord. It sounds like this. Let me show you how to play it. It's going to use 3 of your fingers. The first finger on the second string, first fret. Your second finger goes on to the D string, the 4th string, 2nd fret. And your third finger is 3rd fret, 5th string. Again, the chord diagram is going to make all those numbers go away, and you can just look at the shape. It makes it a lot easier to see the picture of the chord. You also have 2 open strings in there. The high E, the 1st string, and the 3rd string are both open. So none of your fingers are on those. They're just ringing out, making it sound big. Here it is all together again. Nice sounding chord. The next one is the F major chord. This one's kind of similar, but we've got a bar on the 1st fret with your 1st finger. Then I go across with my 2nd finger, play on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. And with my 3rd finger, I go to the 3rd fret on the 4th string. Again, you want to be able to look at these shapes on the chord symbol and kind of memorize the shape. It's going to make it much easier to play it, to memorize where to put your fingers. So let's try playing those chords together. Now the transition between them is something you might want to practice. You have to lift up your fingers and get that next shape, just like that. So I want to show you one more chord and put it together with those last 2. This new chord is a G chord, and I'm on a bar with my 1st finger across the 3rd fret on the first 2 strings. Like that. I'm also going to use the open strings in the middle. By the middle, I mean the middle 2 strings, which is the 4th string and the the third string. So all those together sound like this. Here's the notes separately. And here's them all together. As you can see, sometimes I even use my second finger to press and hold down those notes. So let's put it together in a progression. So here's the C, here's the F, and all you have to do is move that bar up to get the G. And it sounds good all together. Right now, I want to show you how to get some really cool strumming patterns out of your acoustic guitar and make it come alive even more. So we're going to play that A chord, the really easy one where it's just a line, kind of a shape, straight line across the second fret. You played it before, you practiced it, you got it down. And I'm going to do a very simple strumming pattern, just straight up and down. Play it at any tempo you want. I'm going to do it at a medium tempo so we can learn it easily. Now the trick to make the rhythm is I'm going to use the other fingers on my left hand that I'm not using to play the chord to lightly rest across the strings to stop the notes from ringing out. You know, if I have them off, then you get the nice ringing chord. But if I put those strings lightly over the strings, or my fingers lightly over the strings, it mutes them out, and you just get kind of a scratching percussive sound. So if I do that strum, I can keep my right hand doing exactly the same thing. It's not changing, it just keeps going up and down. But my left hand fingers make it stop and give it that cool rhythm. It's good to practice it slow, but when you get comfortable with it, when you start speeding it up, it starts really having a good groove. So I also want to show you how you can mute and make cool rhythms with your right hand. Let me show you one first so you can get it in your ears. The way I'm doing this is I'm using this part of my right hand. I guess that would be the side of my palm. And when I pick, I'm actually picking and muting at the same time. So this part of my hand touches the strings so they won't make any noise. And I'm actually hitting it in one move, like that. The way that works in the rhythm is I'll play the chord 2 times, once down and once up. And then I hit it with that mute, so it sounds like this. Down, up, mute. Now let me put in a little more strumming after that so it fills out all the time and gives us musical rhythm. Now again, the movement of your arm is very smooth and up and down and should feel good to your whole torso and body. That's how you get a groove going. Let's speed it up a little bit so you can hear how it sounds. Again, if this is a little hard right away, make sure you slow it down and just concentrate on that small bit. As it gets easier, you can start speeding it up and adding the more notes. I want to show you one more chord. This is a really useful one, a really great sounding one, and pretty easy to play. It's an A minor chord, and it sounds like this. You can look in your booklet and see the shape, but let me explain it to you real quick. It's just your first finger on the second string, your third finger on the third string, second fret, and your second finger on the second fret of the fourth string. Again, you can forget all those numbers if you just memorize the shape. And you've got an open E at the bottom, first string, and an open A note on the fifth string. So all those notes together. Sounds like that. There's an A minor. Now the thing I want to show you with the A minor is not only how to strum it, but also how to play something called an arpeggio. It's a big word, but all it means is that you play the notes of the chord one at a time separately. And you can combine the two to make a really nice musical pattern, something like this. The cool thing about this is your left hand is just staying there doing the same thing the whole time. But you're getting so much of a variety and a big sound by doing different things with your right hand. So you can just, lock your hand in that position, you forget about it, and make it all happen with the right hand. To take this a little further, let's actually add a C chord. We've already played this one, but the nice thing about it is your first finger can stay in the same position when you make the shift between the two chords. Well, it's actually even better. You can keep your second finger in the same place too. So all that moves is your third finger from here to here. And when you strum those chords, two big sounds with just moving one finger. And let's try that picking pattern where we strum and also play the arpeggio. And you can do arpeggios with any chord you play, and it really makes them big and nice sounding. All right, I want to show you an exercise that I think is really good for developing technique and coordination in your left hand, but also sounds good musically. It's pretty simple still. We're going to put our first finger on the fourth string, second fret. Play that note there, it's an E note. And then we're going to take our third finger and play the third string on the fourth fret. Now the thing that makes this an exercise is I'm going to actually reverse the shape. So I'm going to take my two fingers, they're going to stay on the same frets, but they're going to change strings. So I'm going to shift up, and it'll change from these two notes to these two notes. Just to make it real clear, I'm putting my first finger on the second fret of the third string now, and I'm putting my third finger on the fourth string, fourth fret. So the frets stay the same, but the strings reverse. When I play this, the thing that makes it work is my hand position is changing slightly. So actually don't just watch my fingers, but also watch what my hand down here is doing. It may not be natural at first, but that's why you want to practice it, and eventually that little move with your wrist will be completely natural and you won't even have to think about it. Now to make this sound good, let's add in the open strings down here on the second and first string. Let's combine that with our two chords we just learned. put any strumming pattern you want. That's how you make music out of it. All right, so when we learned chords, we actually learned how to read them with chord charts, and it makes the shape a lot easier to memorize. There's a similar thing when we learn scales and solos, and this thing is called tablature. It's basically a picture of the neck again, in the sense that you've got 6 lines across that represent the strings. The very top line of the tablature represents the high E string, and on down to where the bottom line on the tablature represents the low E string. When you see numbers across the lines, those represent the frets, so you know where to put your fingers. And the numbers down below represent which finger you want to use. So really it explains everything about where your hand needs to be. The only thing it doesn't tell you is the rhythm. So you do need to rely on your ears a little bit when you're reading tablature. All right, are you ready for your first scale? This is a great scale. It's pretty easy to play. It's very easy to memorize. And it's called the E minor pentatonic. It only uses 2 fingers on your left hand. And it'll start out on the high E string, the first string, on the 3rd fret. After you play that note, you play the open string on the same string. Just like that. We're going to do exactly the same thing on the 2nd string. So that's really easy right there. Just use 1 finger. To pick it, just so I can concentrate on this hand, I'm going to do all downstrokes with my right hand. Don't worry if you can't play it fast right away. It's really good to just start off playing slow and perfect and get those nice clear notes. The next part of the scale is going to use our first finger. This is on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. Then we'll go open and do exactly the same thing on the next 2 strings up. That set of 3. Set of 3 strings, that is. You're all doing that just with 1 finger. So altogether so far, it up, we've got our 2nd finger on the big low 6th string, 3rd fret, and open. So altogether the scale is going to sound like this. Again, it's no problem playing it slow. It really helps to make it perfect and nice and clear. Now there's other ways to pick this scale that will make it easier to play in the future as you practice it. One thing is called alternate picking. This is similar to strumming, where you go up and down each time. So let's try that, where we do a downstroke and then an upstroke. Now of course, strumming is a very big motion, but this is going to be a very small motion because you're just playing 1 string at a time. This is a much more efficient way of picking, so you can get it much faster the more you practice it. It's got a nice twang to it too. Another way you can play this scale is using something called a pull-off. This is where you actually use your left hand to pull and make that open string come out nice and clear and loud. So you only have to pick the string once, and then you pull off with your left hand and get that open string to ring out. It takes some practice, but it's a great technique. Let's try that with all the strings, slowly. Picking once each time. This again is really good when you start playing the scale faster. It also gives it a more smooth sound. Now don't worry if you can't play it fast right away. It takes a lot of practice, but this is a great technique that you should work on, and it'll help you out in the future. Now, to make a scale work, it really helps to play it with a chord, whether it's another guitar player playing with you or whether you're just playing it back and forth yourself. The chord that sounds best with the E minor pentatonic scale is the E minor chord. It's the first one I showed you on this DVD. It sounds like this. Pretty easy chord. And you can hear how the notes of E minor pentatonic match up with the sound of that chord. I'm going to do a little bit of improvisation just to show you how you can use a scale and even make up your own kind of solos to go with it. I'm going to try to keep it simple. So you can see how I'm going back and forth between playing the chord and between playing notes in that scale. You don't necessarily have to play all of them, you just play a couple, you know. That's how you make scales and chords work together. Now, the first scale that we learned went across the strings this way. That's a great way to play scales. But I also want to show you that you can play a scale this way, kind of horizontally along the neck. Let me just play it so you can get it in your ears and hear how it sounds. This is all on one string using my first finger. That's an E major scale. It's a nice sound. It's actually the first scale I ever learned. So this is all going to be on the fourth string, which is the D string. It's going to start on the second fret, which is the E note. Good note to start on if you're playing E major. So let me show it to you slowly. I'm going to start off with a 2-fret jump. When you play a 2-fret jump like that, it's also called a whole step. I'm going to follow it with another whole step, and then go to a half step, which is just 1 fret. Another whole step, another whole step, another whole step, and our last one is a half step. I'm going to do it a little bit quicker. Now, the thing that's going to make this sound good on acoustic guitar is I'm going to combine it with the open strings, the B and the E, the second and first strings. So I'm going to play them like this. If you want to experiment with using your fingers, that can also sound good. So a pick is fine, or your thumb and fingers on your right hand are also fine. And that's another great way of doing solos on an acoustic guitar. All right, I want want to show you one secret that a lot of people use for acoustic guitar to really make it easy to play and to make it sound really big. And this is different ways of tuning the acoustic. I'm going to show you one now where it's going to be a little tricky to tune it, but once we get there, it's going to make it really easy to play, so bear with me. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the high E string, and I'm going to tune it down a whole step to a D note. So just listen to what I do. It's getting lower in pitch, and I've already got a D string, so I'm going to match it up by ear. You can hear how when it's out, it doesn't match. You can also use your electric tuner and tune it to a D note that way. So we got there. Next, I'm going to do exactly the same thing to the second string. Tune it down a whole step. That's going to make it into an A note, and we've already got an A note that we can match it to. You can hear how when it's out, it's a little ugly. We'll get it right into pitch. The next one I'm going to do is the low E. This is also going to go down a whole step to D. And we're almost there. The very last one is our third string. It's just going to go down a half step. So this is the same as 1 fret on the guitar. Now there's no other string that's going to match to this, so you're going to have to use your ear or you're going to have to use the electronic tuner to get it right. But you can hear if you play the other strings, it'll start getting that nice happy major sound. And listen to all those together, that's beautiful. Cool. So the thing we can do with this is you can actually, now that you're tuned to a chord, you can play it with no hands, or you can use your first finger to bar across all the strings to get a chord in a different place. There, I've got it on the 5th fret. Sometimes I use my second finger to help give my first finger strength to hold all those strings down. So I'm going to alternate between open and the 5th fret. And you can use all kinds of different strumming patterns. This chord works almost everywhere. There's the 7th fret. Nice thing about this, you don't have to stare at the frets. You can just look up, and wherever you put your finger, you're going to have a nice chord. Now, while we're still tuned down to our open D major tuning, I want to show you something called harmonics. Now, harmonics will work in any tuning you do, but they sound really nice in this tuning because they also use the same notes as the open strings. Now, harmonic is something that happens on the 12th fret. You can tell the 12th fret because there's usually 2 position markers or 2 dots there. The way you play them is actually you put your finger directly over the metal fret, not in between. And you don't press all the way down, you just lightly put your finger over that fret. And you can see the notes still sustain even though I'm not fretting them anymore. And they're almost like clear and very bell-like. Sounds really nice. There's also strong harmonics on the 7th fret, right above the 7th fret. And you also have some pretty good ones on the 5th fret. And you can hear how they change from, they get higher each time. So those sound really nice, especially with this open tuning. All right, so thank you for watching the Jam Pack Ibanez acoustic guitar instructional DVD. If you want to, also check out the electric one. You know, the instruments are very similar, so maybe you can get some stuff from that too. If you want more information on how to play your guitar, you can also go to ibanez.com and check out all the information they have there. If you want to find out more about me, please go to paulgilbert.com. There's not much information, but there's lots of crazy pictures of me when I had big heavy metal hair. And thank you once again. Please enjoy your acoustic guitar. It's an awesome instrument. You can take it anywhere. You can write songs, you can strum, you can play little solo things, and make it a great part of your life. It's a fantastic instrument. It even smells good. So we'll see you on the road, rock and roll, and play your acoustic guitar.